Sadly, we've heard it all before.
This is Locked On Sports Atlanta, and it's time for the Atlanta Baseball Party, only on Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome to the Atlanta Baseball Party, your home for the best Atlanta Braves baseball talk. It's local insight you can't get anywhere but right here at Locked On. I'm your host, Tenitra Batiste. Alongside me are Jarvis Davis and special guest Jake Mastroianni, who will join the show later. This episode is also brought to you by Prize Picks, the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnMLB and use code all lowercase Locked On MLB for a first deposit match up to $100. The Atlanta Baseball Party is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So what's the biggest takeaway from Act 1 as the Braves get set for Act 2? And the Braves added another piece at its strongest position. We'll talk about it. But first, let's chop it up about a pretty nice night in Arlington. So Jarvis, Max Fried, of course, made an appearance in the All-Star game for the Braves and pitched a clean inning Tuesday night. Fried is, of course, the first Braves pitcher to appear in the All-Star game since Michael Soroka pitched a scoreless inning back in 2019. Now, the AJC's Gabe Burns asked Max if he still hoped to spend his career with the Braves ahead of the All-Star game. And Fried said, quote, "I love the organization 100%. Obviously, there's a lot of stuff that in the middle of the season, we're focused on a lot of things, but I truly do. I have loved my time in Atlanta. I love it." He said it again. Definitely would love to be here. Does this mean goodbye for Max Fried?
T, I'm going to reference an old proverb. Heard it all before.
I know, right?
And I hate to put it like that because I understand why he loves this organization, because it's an excellent organization until it's time to get paid. Because when you think about what we've gone through with Freddie Freeman and Dansby Swanson, it's just like we are conditioned. I know I am. I don't know about you, but I'm conditioned to watch superstars or guys who've been pillars for this organization just walk out the door when it's time for them to get them big boy checks. And I can't get mad at it because the product is still good, right? If the Braves were in the bottom of the NL East along with the Mets and the Nationals or the Marlins or whatever, or they were just battling for the bottom of the barrel NL East, I'd be truly upset. But being that they have a plan and how they do things, and they're still competing and being in conversations for a World Series, it's hard to knock it. It's hard to knock it, T. But we've heard it all before.
Yeah, and it's so different. And it's tough because when you hear someone talk like that, it's almost like they know they're out the door. And you kind of reference a song that's talking about a relationship gone wrong. And well, if we look back at the Freddie Freeman situation and the Dansby Swanson situation, great relationships until it went wrong. At least in our opinion, meaning that a legend in Freddie Freeman, who's obviously going to be a Hall of Famer, and Dansby Swanson, a local product that everybody wanted to see stay here. You kind of knew, well, Freddie, I think, shocked everybody. But once Freddie happened, then we were prepared for Dansby. And like you said, now we're not even triggered anymore. It's just like we're trying to just mentally prepare ourselves for the actual day when we lose Max Fried. But it's tough because we're talking about a 3-time All-Star. We're talking about someone who's been consistently one of these Braves best pitchers. As I mentioned recently, you go back to the situation where Michael Soroka goes down and it's like, oh God, we lost our ace. And then here comes Max Fried. And then you lose Spencer Strider. Oh God, we lost our ace. And then here comes Max Fried. And what does Max Fried do other than that, tough outing, the very first game? What has it been, Jarvis? But nothing but up, up, up. A 3.01 ERA and 131 starts, 67-26 record. That's him since being put into the team's rotation full time. And here he is in the final year of his contract, 16th best ERA in the majors at 3.08. I mean, it's crazy. And wait. Doing ace things, even this year alone, because we don't want it to seem like, it was year one of the last 3 years, year two of the last 3 years. No, he's still that guy. That's why you saw him get the call up for All-Star. Past 11 starts, 73 2/3 innings, 1.95 ERA, 68 strikeouts, and 18 walks. That's what you're losing. But on the same token, when you talk about a guy who I believe makes 15 million and a
I think
guy
yeah,
who
hold on. Let me bring this up though, T. I think you make an excellent point talking about being able to step in and be the ace that he is, right?
yeah,
Because I think I know coming into this season, I kind of pushed him to the side myself, and he's been the model of consistency because I was
yeah,
saying coming into the season, like Spencer Strider is the guy, he's the ace. Hey, it's time to, kind of slide Max Fried to the side like the Braves have
mhm,
done in the past, and then, kind of move on because we understand what time it is. You know that time, that clock's ticking. Last year
yeah,
of the contract, we know, like you said, we've been conditioned to understand what that means for Braves players going into contract years who expect to get them big boy checks. But
yeah,
I think that he's just been the model of consistency
yeah.
so much, and it's truly just frustrating because we understand where the Braves are with position players. They're pretty much locked
Mhm,
in, but you talking
yeah,
about a left-handed pitcher walking out of the door, like
yeah.
who's been really, really good. But on the other side of you saying, man, this man could go out and get how much money he wants. Like, who's not gonna be willing to pay him $35 million a year or $40 million a year? Who knows what that number could be? So
Right.
yeah, I think that teams are gonna see what he's done, like the numbers you just run off, and say, "Man, what's your price? What's your
But
number?" And I feel like the Braves gonna be like, "All right, we'll holler at you."
yeah, yeah, unfortunately, because what is he at, like 15 mil right now? And I think you mentioned it, he could more than double that. And
Right.
that's just not
Easily.
the Braves formula for retaining talent. And we'll talk about this a little bit later on in the show, but then you go out and get yourself a lefty, and we know that he's going to be added to the farm system. We don't know necessarily how quickly we'll see him. But then again, this year we saw Spencer Schwellenbach. Granted, it was about injuries, but we saw him sooner than we thought we would. We saw Hurston
Mhm.
Waldrop sooner than we thought we would. So you almost kind of look over your shoulder like, well, they did just draft Cam Caminiti a couple nights ago. And again, not that he's going to be a one-to-one replacement of Max Fried immediately, but it does just kind of raise the eyebrow of, does this mean that this might be the last time this season that we see Max Fried in a uniform, a Braves uniform? But it also begs the question, Jarvis, of whether or not Alex Anthopoulos tries to make a move for an arm at the deadline because he knows that Fried's departure is looming, or does he go in a different direction?
Wow, I think you have to almost at least make some phone calls, right?
Yeah,
I still feel like a solid corner outfielder, a guy with some pop, a guy with maybe a little bit more of an edge than they're used to, right, in that locker room. Power this team forward and continue, that upward trend that we saw right before going into the break as far as scoring runs. So,
yeah,
but I do think on the side conversation, because we know Alex Anthopoulos is amazing with keeping stuff in house because a lot of times when things happen with the Braves, there's
mhm,
no one saying, "Oh yeah, the Braves are blah 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 blah." It's coming from the Braves,
right,
that it happened or what's going down on the trade. So yeah, I definitely think that corner outfielder should be the priority. But I feel like Alex Anthopoulos is definitely going to be getting on the phone, trying to find some guys who maybe have 2 or 3 years under control towards
mhm,
the end of their whatever deal they may be under. That's up under that $22 million threshold. I believe it is. So
yeah.
yeah, I definitely think that he always has that foresight to be thinking ahead because he understands what might happen down the line.
Yeah, and I would agree with you. I think he's probably already been on the phones. We know we're exactly 2 weeks away from the trade deadline, so we know that there's definitely movement that we have seen from Alex Anthopoulos that won't surprise us because we know this is what he does. But ultimately, you won't know until he actually does it. When we come back, there'll be a little talk about the possibility of what's going to happen in Act Two based on maybe what we did or didn't see in Act One for the Braves. We'll talk about it and go in deep. This episode of our Atlanta Baseball Party is brought to you by Supply House and also by Prize Picks. So you can get supplies from the site that's made for the skilled trade, supplyhouse.com. Supplyhouse.com is the reliable way to order plumbing, HVAC, and electrical products online. Their easy to use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. Shop a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from over 400 top brands and get your order delivered right to your door with fast shipping from coast to coast. Need help with an order? Get expert support, an industry-leading service from the friendliest folks in the business, and talk to a real person every single time. And there's great news for plumbers, technicians, contractors. Being a pro does have its perks. Trade industry professionals can join their free Trade Master program for free shipping and serious discounts on every order. Over 100,000 pros already trust the Trade Master program to deliver results. So you can apply for your membership today and get a competitive edge on every order at supplyhouse.com/TM. Again, that's supplyhouse.com/TM. Save money and save time when you order online. You can order plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies from supplyhouse.com. It's real people, real service at supplyhouse.com. This episode of our Atlanta Baseball Party is also brought to you by Prize Picks. So think about this, guys. It's America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. Prize Picks is also the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Unlike other apps on Prize Picks, it's just you against the numbers. All you do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. You can get in on the action with your friends and become part of Prize Packs community today. So it's really, really simple. You can download the Prize Picks app, use code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to 100%. That's code LOCKEDONMLB on Prize for a deposit match up to $100. So think about this. You may have some player projection lineups, right? We've got a couple days left in wrapping up the MLB break, if you will, the All-Star break. Then the Braves return. So you might want to think about who's getting hot. You might want to go with a guy like Marcell Ozuna, the All-Star, who stayed hot over this last half of the season, or this back half of the first half of the season that you hope will be the same in the last half of the season. And this is the way to take advantage of that. Again, that's Prize Picks, the app. Download it today. Code LOCKEDONMLB will get you a deposit match of up to $100. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy.
Welcome back into the Atlanta Baseball Party. Locked On Sports Today is a free 24/7 sports streaming channel and is programmed for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all the screaming. Locked On Sports Today brings you can't miss analysis, opinions, and news streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Joining us now is the host of Locked On Braves and also co-host of the Locked On Braves postcast. They'll get kicked off here pretty soon as we're in the All-Star break. Jake Mastroianni, man, appreciate you coming on, man. I got to start off with this. I know my biggest takeaway from to start the season has been the Braves basically navigating losing their best player in Ronald Acuna Jr. and their ace of this team in Spencer Strider. What for you kind of has, and they've been able to still be in wild card, like have a 4-game lead in a wild card right now. Like, what has been was that the same for you, or was it kind of something else that kind of stood out to you in the first half of the season?
Well, I think what really stands out is the pitching because of all the injuries that they have had, including losing Spencer Strider. The only reason they're still where they are is because of that pitching staff. And you look at a couple of All-Stars that they had, and Reynaldo Lopez and Chris Sale, which, by the way, were some very shrewd moves by Alex Anthopoulos in the offseason. If this team didn't have those two guys, they might not be in a wild card spot right now, and things would look a lot different. We focus a lot on the lack of offense in the first half and the struggles there, but really, we need to be focusing on the pitching and just how great it has been and where this team might be without them.
You know what? I think you make a great point, because when I think about what Chris Sale has brought to this table, he is just a guy that no one really expected him to have the type of season that he's having. And I always kind of look in the preseason, I kind of look at the moves that Alex Anthopoulos has made, because he always seems to find that one move that you're like, oh man, okay, that's all good. And then next thing you know, oh my God, this dude is an all-star. So, and I feel like Chris Sale has been that type of move. But what do you feel he has brought to this locker room that may be what the Braves need in order to have some success in the second half of the season?
You know, a lot of people, when we talked about when he got Chris Sale, they were bringing in somebody with a little bit more of a fire, a little bit more of an edge. And that's something that's been lacking from this Braves team. Now, it's harder to do that from a starting pitching standpoint because you're playing every fifth day. You know, that's not going to have the same influence over, you know, the entire lineup and the guys on offense as it will maybe the pitching staff. But it certainly seems to have helped elevate that rotation for sure. You know, you got Max Fried, who can also be a little bit of a fiery guy at times, at least on the field when he's competing. But he certainly has brought a little bit more of that edge and that fire, a little bit louder guy in the clubhouse as well. And he's just a really good pitcher. Look, the only reason people think he hasn't been good anymore is because he hasn't been able to pitch. He hasn't been healthy for 4 years. And, you know, he still has that really good stuff. And I said it when the Braves made the move for him. You look at the underlying metrics from last year in the 100 innings he pitched for Boston, and it was still that big whiff rate on the slider. And he still had the good velo on the fastball. So I believed, you know, all this stuff was still there. Now, I didn't think he would be an all-star. I didn't think he would pitch to this level, but I thought he had a really good chance to still do some good things for the Braves.
Yeah, I think, you know, Sale is just such a consummate professional, because the way he talks about, you know, Sean Murphy and how, hey, man, I don't shake pitches off. I don't call pitches, man. I just pitch, you know, and just be able to have that type of mindset towards the game, because we know a lot of guys can overthink it when they're on the mound, when you have all of these clickers and all this stuff going on. Because I'm not really into the whole analytics stuff. Jake, I don't know about you, but I kind of just like, all right, I like people to simplify things. And when you have a guy like Chris Sale talking about base pitching in that manner, and it just kind of heartwarming to me. It's like, oh, okay, so it's not as hard as people make it seem to be.
Yeah, well, I mean, in terms of what he's doing, nobody can really go out and do that, throwing, you know, 95, 97 from the left side with that weird arm angle, and then a really slow curveball to kind of pair that with. But it really is those two pitches. I mean, it's kind of similar to Spencer Strider, not necessarily the stuff, although it is the same two pitches, but Strider obviously throws much more firmly. But it's really just two pitches that you're dominating with and being able to locate them. And that's the great other thing about Chris Sale. He doesn't walk anybody. He does a great job of locating those pitches and just keeping hitters off balance. He'll mix in a changeup and a curveball, again, kind of like Spencer Strider as well. But he'll really just focus on that fastball and slider and being able to locate those pitches, as you said, just kind of simplifying it. You got two pitches like that are that good, and you can locate them. It's still going to be hard for major league hitters to figure that out.
Yeah, you know what? I'm with you on that, man, because I think what he brings to the table and what he's been doing for this team, I feel like that would be super important come October, regardless of whether or not they win in division or, you know, they get in via the wild card. I want to kind of touch on something that Tenitra and I talked about a little bit earlier. We were talking about Max Fried and how he was asked about being a Brave for life, and he's talking about how much he's so in love with this organization and just he would love to continue his career or finish his career with the Atlanta Braves. But my opinion is, I just feel like we've heard this movie. We heard this song before, right? We heard it all before. I was singing the song by Sunshine Anderson. Her song, she was a one-hit wonder, had a song called Heard It All before. And we've seen Freddie Freeman walk out the door. We've seen Dansby Swanson walk out the door. What to you, if anything, is going to say this situation with Max Fried is going to be any different?
I don't think it is. And, you know, I've been saying for a while that I think Max Fried is gone. And look, Chipper Jones told Freddie Freeman, he said, you get to free agency, there's a really good chance you're not going to come back to the Atlanta Braves, because the Braves are not a team that's going to overpay in free agency. They're just not. They're not going to go beyond what they believe that player's value is. And, you know, we've seen it. Like you said, Freddie Freeman, Dansby Swanson, you get to free agency, all of a sudden those other teams start looking more attractive. You see the extra money that you can be getting in other places. And all of a sudden you forget how much you love it in Atlanta and how much you love playing for that organization. And I just feel like, you know, Max Fried's going to hit free agency, especially with the year that he's having. He's going to get a 5 or 6 year deal. And I just cannot see Alex Anthopoulos, with how volatile pitching is, giving somebody going into their 30s a 5 or 6 year deal. It's very risky for starting pitchers. And look, Max Fried could be great. He could be that one pitcher that holds up for the length of a 5-6 year deal, but it's just the odds are not great of that. As much as I love Max Fried, I want to keep him around.
Same.
I just cannot see Alex Anthopoulos giving a starting pitcher going into their 30s more than 5 years.
Have you been surprised with how Marcell Ozuna played in the first half of the season?
Yeah, but I mean, we've seen it for over a year now, so I think it's past time that we probably just believe that this is who he is, that he has just turned himself into a great hitter, and credit to him, because he was disastrous for 2+ years before turning it on last May. But since that point, you can argue he's been one of the better hitters in all of baseball. And maybe the switch to full-time DH has helped. You don't have to worry about the outfield as much anymore. You just focus on hitting. But he's just become more of a well-rounded hitter, where before it was all or nothing. It was strikeout, home run, and now he'll take his walks. He'll shoot a ball the other way every now and then just to get a hit and get on base. So it's been a complete turnaround for Marcell Ozuna. So I'm a little surprised he's, flirted with a 1,000 OPS for most of this season. I didn't think he would do that, especially when offense has been down around the league, especially with the Braves. But again, we talked about where this team would be without Chris Sale. Where would this offense be without Marcell Ozuna? Because he's been the one consistent bat all year long.
Yeah, to be sitting here at the All-Star break saying that Marcell Ozuna has carried this offense in the first half of the season, I was like, I think no one saw that coming out. Last one I get you out of here with this, man. I think that it's interesting that Brian Snitker was asked about, being in the position that they're in right now with the 4-game lead in the wild card. And he was saying, hey, we're still trying to win the division. What's the ideal scenario for you? Would you rather see them go into the wild card for the whole Phillies type situation? Or would you rather them go for that title and get that bye week going into the playoffs?
Yeah. So here's the thing. The best path, I believe, is still to win the division and get that bye. I have to believe that is the better path, despite how things have gone for the Braves the past 2 years. Because you get in that wild card series, anything can happen in a 3-game series. You have a call not go your way, you lose a game. A pitcher has an off night, you lose a game. I mean, it's baseball. Things can happen like that. So I still think the best path is to win the division. That said, you're 8.5 games back with 2.5 months to go. That Phillies team is really good. I think their odds of running them down are very slim. And what I don't want to see is Brian Snitker and the Braves go all out, burn their starting pitching, run their guys down, trying to catch the Phillies. And then you get to the postseason, whether you win the division or not, and all your guys are just worn out and your pitchers are tired. And we go into the postseason again with a rotation that is banged up. So if they can track down the Phillies, great. But more important for me is keeping the guys, especially the starting pitching, healthy and ready for the end of the season.
Yeah, I think if that happens, that scenario plays out like you just mentioned, I think people are going to want to start having some conversations about Brian Snitker, and that I know that a lot of people who really like him don't want to have.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jake, man, I appreciate you for coming on. He is the host of Locked On Braves. Make sure after you check out Locked On Sports Atlanta and Atlanta Baseball Party, make sure you check out Locked On Braves and the Locked On Braves postcast when the Braves get started back. Coming up next, I think the Diamond Sports Group and Comcast are going to figure it out. We'll discuss.
Passion, drive, and patience. We've seen it from the Braves time and time again. They have the passion to never give up and hopefully have the drive to run to another World Series. We just have to be patient. Those are the same 3 characteristics that are formulas for winning championships for your ride or die if you go with eBay Motors. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, seat covers like I have from them, and so much more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your parts guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. So keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Now, eligible items only and exclusions do apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit is only available to U.S. customers. You can keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. So, Jarvis, it has been an up and down season, not just for how the Braves have played, but how you can see them play because of some of the challenges that have happened over and over again with their broadcast partner. So, Diamond Sports and Comcast reportedly are now back in negotiations. Will Diamond Sports and Comcast ever really figure this thing out?
I don't know, T. I just think it's weird anyway because apparently they're supposed to present on July 29th. So it's, July 17th right now as of this recording. So they got a little bit more than a week, to kind of get this thing figured out as to whether or not they want to continue to sustain themselves as a company because you can't
Yeah,
keep rolling without Comcast. Because I was visiting with a friend at a cigar bar, probably about up in the, North Atlanta,
mhm,
and I asked them to turn the Braves game on. They were like, "Oh, yeah, we don't we have
yeah,
Xfinity. We are working to try to figure that situation out." I'm just like, that is so weird. You're at a
yeah,
bar that
yeah,
pays X amount of dollars for cable, which is a lot more than what I pay, right? Because you pay for square footage and all that stuff. You got to pay for that. It's just
mhm,
so weird that they just
yeah,
in the middle of the season, oh, we can't figure it out, so let's go do this thing. And I think the Diamond has a little bit more of an incentive to try to get this done because you
yeah,
can't continue to sustain yourself without having your product on one of the more popular, if not the most popular, cable company. It's just
yeah,
weird as crap to me. And I feel like there's some greediness on both sides, obviously,
for
but
sure.
it
Yeah.
just seems like somebody needs to say, hey, you know what? Let's get this thing figured out. And thankfully, they at least started the process.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I think that hopefully they'll figure it out. Don't know if they will. Don't know how this is going to play out. We were just having a conversation even last night about Bally Sports South or Diamond Sports Group other partner, which is the Atlanta Hawks, and whether or not they're going to be on Bally this year or not. Are you going to have to watch them locally on, say, the Peachtree Sports Network, which carried, I believe, 10 of their games last season? So yeah,
Mhm.
this thing is kind of interesting because they kind of do need each other, but I feel like Diamond Sports might be more in need than anything because, hey, there are still going to be times where I can watch the Braves if they're on ESPN or if they're on Big Fox.
Yep.
I have ways to watch the Braves. I can, you can listen to them on the radio. So there are ways for you to get your Braves content. Or if they're playing another team, you may be able to watch if that team has a broadcast contract or partnership with another entity other than Diamond Sports. So
Mhm.
that's kind of the way I see it. Like they better get it together. But that's also how I've been coping because I'm like, well, I'll just check out the Braves when they play other games, other teams rather. And sometimes I'll just kind of listen on air as well to what you say because to what the broadcast is because you can either catch them locally or again you can catch them on ESPN radio or even one of those other partners.
I might have to pray because I've been one of them websites. I'm not gonna say what it is because the website. I tried to try to put you in the sinning too. I was trying to be a bad influence on you.
Yeah, right. Maybe it's just too much. I don't know, too much covering around here that it's like
Right? They were
that
like,
you
oh
can't do
no,
better.
I'm blocking that one. No,
Right,
I blocked
right. Thanks a
it.
lot. But no worries. Maybe they'll get it fixed by the time we get to see Cam Caminiti take the mound for the Braves. He, of course, is the high schooler that the Braves selected in the first round of the MLB draft of the lefty. He's only 17, but a lot of confidence with this kid. And he's one of those guys that's considered to be a steal out of Scottsdale, Arizona high school. And with him coming in, he goes, quote, I know they're a great organization. They win a lot of baseball games. I'm excited to get them a ring. You got to love that swag. Projected to go 11th, fell to 24 so that the Braves were able to get him. Do you like that the Braves picked another pitcher in the draft, or would you have preferred them to maybe use that pick to add depth elsewhere?
Yeah, like this is the model, right? Bring as
Yep.
many arms as you possibly can. Hopefully, one of y'all rise to the top, and hopefully, y'all one rise enough to the top to where we can use it as a trade piece. This
Yeah.
is this is quintessential what the Braves do, and it's also interesting too because he's the cousin of Ken Caminiti,
Yep.
Big Bopper who used to play back in the day. Unfortunately he passed away some time ago. So, but yeah, it's for him to be already have that lineage of in his family to know, hey, I understand what it is, and you kind of get a glimpse of that because you're talking about, hey, helping the team win a ring. Like, I was like, man, you 17 years old. What you talking about? You need to be worried about, hey, and my mom gonna move with me to wherever farm team I'm going to or wherever farm system I'm going to. So yeah, it's really cool to see a guy this age be drafted into an organization like the Braves, and I'm sure he's just as excited as well.
Yeah, I love the swag, and it's something that you and I talked about before. Like, we know that Alex Anthopoulos has gotten some dogs at the trade deadline, Jock Peterson. But man, this sounds like he's got himself a little dog in the draft as well. So I like the pick. Like you said, I love the lineage because anytime a draft pick has that type of lineage in baseball, period, it seems to always be a positive of some sort. But to have the Braves lineage might be an extra added plus. Speaking of extra added pluses for Atlanta, we're up next to host the All-Star Week. It will be the first All-Star game at Truist Park since it opened back in 2017. So are you ready for the Midsummer Classic to return to the A?
I don't know if I'm a goatee, but because I just came from a baseball game and that thing was expensive. I can only imagine what those prices gonna be when the All-Star game comes in. But yeah, it is cool. Obviously, previously there was a situation where the Braves, Atlanta had gotten the All-Star game into some political situations, went down and ended up not coming here. So I'm kind of glad it'll be the first time since 2000. It's a long time, T. It's been too long, actually, right? When you think about what the hosting capabilities that this city has, and for them to have this new park, since 2017, and this is the first time. It took 7 years. Good Lord, come on now. when teams who build these billion-dollar stadiums in the NFL, they host Super Bowls almost immediately.
Yeah, that's
right?
ridiculous. Going out and getting a new stadium in the NFL.
Right, come on now. Let's get with the program. But yeah, I'm glad it's coming back. Atlanta deserves to have an all-star team, and will hopefully, since the Phillies took over getting all these all-stars in this year, hopefully the Braves will have about 6 or 7 of them right here at home.
Yeah, return to form like the year before. And yeah, I'm excited because I thought that Atlanta did an excellent job with the Super Bowl. And one thing that I like about Truist Park and the way that entire battery is built up is it's made for this. It's absolutely made for this. And you know that the city is going to figure it out as far as traffic goes to get you into that area. But yeah, that's one of the sneaky good experiences. We talk about, of course, Falcons, obviously, with the wonderful new stadium, the Benz, and State Farm Arena is a movie every single time. But I believe that Atlanta, especially like you said, since not having it since like 2000, I think we're going to absolutely show out. I just think we're going to absolutely show out.
Yeah.
Thanks to our everydayers for making the Atlanta baseball party your first listen of the day. Be sure to stop by Locked On Braves for your second listen, and be sure to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And remember, we're free and available wherever you download your podcasts. We'll see you Thursday on the Atlanta Sports Party.